Recommendation that the regular meeting be suspended and the committee of the whole meeting be convened. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Motion's carried. I'd like to call tonight's committee of the whole meeting to order. Recommendation that the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting of June 27th, 2016 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Kitty, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, we'll first start off with a presentation by our communications manager regarding the 2015 annual report.
Hello. So my report to council is basically to give an opportunity for community members to provide feedback on the 2015 annual report. Preparation of the annual report is a statutory requirement of the community charter. The scope of the report is specified in the charter and also in the annual report itself. Council approved the circulation of the report at the June 13th, 2016 council meeting and moved that the annual public meeting and consideration of the report be moved to today's meeting. The report's been posted on the city's webpage and copies were also available at City Hall. And notice of the report was also published on June 17th and June 22nd in the local newspaper. So we'll just leave it open to the public now for comment.
Sure. Okay, so if there's any members of the public that would like to comment specifically on the annual report for 2015, please feel free to come to the mic and share your views. Welcome.
I was hoping there was going to be more of a presentation, but so City West is over the years has carried the city, and I see they made $2.1 million this year, but I can't tell from if any of it was transferred to the city. Did we get anything from City West in 2015, and are we expecting anything in 2016?
Last year, City West did give us a repayment, and their financial statements are included in the annual report and in the financial statements. Well, sorry, their financial statements are included in the City of Prince Rupert audited statements. And as for this year, we do have an estimate which was included in the budget. I believe it's $400,000 is estimated as coming to the city.
And are you saying the $400,000? As I remember reading this, the $400,000 was repayment for a loan. So that has nothing to do with giving the city money. That's just paying off a loan that we got for them.
It isn't considered a dividend. It is considered a repayment of loan.
So in the essence, we didn't get any dividend from them this year.
No, we did not get a dividend. We got a repayment of a loan.
I've seen the annual report of the City West, and it's much more elaborate than this. So do you think that City West it's probably getting in contact with them for it, is it?
You're welcome to contact City West, of course.
Well, it is city-owned. This is a city property, et cetera. So we got nothing from them. They got $2.1 million profit. They paid off $400,000 on a loan. Maybe you could do the same for parking. I noticed that presumably we're talking about Cow Bay parking. It was like in 2014, it was like $26,000, and in 2015, it was $360,000. So I assume that was the car machine or the paid parking down there at Cow Bay. Is that a nice assumption?
The Rushbrook improvement monies comes into the city as there's paid parking. Basically, we recognize the revenue as it comes in, and then we also used a bunch of the money for the improvements down at the Rushbrook improvement area. I don't know if you've gone by, but the ramp was actually redone last year.
Yes, and thank you. The other thing that I can say about the annual report per se, and it's probably going along with the provincial part of it, that it's basically just finance, where I see the civic centers in the back of the room. So what we really need to know is how many people are actually using the facilities, and it comes, and almost to a jocular point. In the RCMP report, they were saying something like there was a 23% increase in this. Without the numbers, it's almost trivial. You know, it could have been from 1 to 2 or from 3 to 4 or something like that. So I would say what we really need is numbers. We need how many people are actually using the Civic Center. One of the things is we used to have, and some of the places still do it, we used to have people would come in quarterly or once in a half a year. So the RCMP would come in, the fire department would come in. They would give a report. They would say, we've done so many cases, we've done this, this, and this. And you sort of get a feeling for what you get something other than we spent this much money into the discussion, which I think I would like to see the council try to bring us back. But the city council itself, over a period of years, was one of the first to put the agenda online and stuff like that. So the city's got such a good web potential that I would say put these numbers. You don't have to introduce them to the council. Say how many people are attending this swim pool, which I think she got the software to do last year or something like that, and just keep a running total of it so the citizens have some idea other than just the money that's being spent.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Next speaker, please, regarding the annual report. Call again for the next speaker. And one last time. Okay, that concludes that portion of the Committee of the Whole. Now I'll open up for any general questions from members of the public on any topic of your choice. You can come forward and present to council. Okay, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn and reconvene the regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of June 27th, 2016 be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Niche. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 3A, recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting of June 13th, 2016 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Cunningham. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 3B, recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 13th, 2016 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Cunningham. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to item 6A. Recommendation that council, by resolution, having heard the comments of the public, approve the 2015 annual report. Moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Cunningham. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 6B, a report from the city planner regarding the application for a development variance permit at 924 Ambrose Avenue. Welcome back, Mr. Krekic.
Thank you, Your Worship, Mr. Mayor. This development variance permit dates to May 18th. Full application is attached. At the June 13 regular meeting, council approved public notification, which was mailed and delivered to the owners and tenants within the radius of 150 feet. The subject property is located at 924, as illustrated in the overhead slide. The variance is to reduce the front property setback from 3.6 meters to 1.2 meters. The red line indicates the extent of the minimum setback, and the other red line indicates the encroachment. The same view on the photograph. You will see the extent of the deck, and if you look at the overhead picture, you can see that there is a hedge which actually exists on the city property. The deck is not going to provide any negative effects on the viewscape, and as at the date, as at 4:30 today, we did not receive any comments that would preclude or prevent approval of this application.
Any questions? Okay, so the recommendation is that development variance permit application number DP 1609 for 924 Ambrose Avenue proceeds to final consideration. Moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Niche. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, application for development variance permit Lot A, Block 4, Plan PRP 5535, Horizon North.
I'm not going to flip this this slide because really it shows exactly something is frozen. I can't lift it. Maybe I'll let this just kind of work by itself for a while. In early May, we received the application for development variance permit to reduce the parking requirements for the proposed Horizon North camp located immediately behind immediately behind the Performance Arts Center, as it's illustrated on this slide. The proposed camp is designed to accommodate the workforce generally generated by construction of the proposed major projects. In the city zoning bylaw, we equate construction camps to commercial accommodation, which requires one parking spot per unit. That would require 160, the camp is proposed for 168 units, which would require 168 parking spots. The proposed variance is to reduce the parking requirements to 110 parking spaces, or by 35%. As part of the traffic impact study, which was done for the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, the applicant also provided statistics on and rationale for reducing the parking requirements. They have based that on the two camps that they operate in Alberta. Which are located 650 kilometers apart, but in relation to Edmonton, it appears that it's some 350 to 400 kilometers to one, which is the Black Sand Executive Lodge, and approximately 150 or so kilometers to the west, which would be the Fox Creek Camp. In the attachment 3, this is an excerpt from the traffic impact study, which deals specifically with parking. The text backs up the chart, which is the most important one, and which is included in your attachments, and I'll just briefly go over it. One camp, which has 686 units, provided 527 parking places, which is approximately a similar ratio as they're proposing to do here. And when we look at the usage of the parking places, we see that nighttime is the highest usage at 237, which is approximately 35% of the full count, or in other words, 0.35 parking places per unit. The Lusgun Lake Lodge It has a similar proportions, and this data is the evidence that also became known to us as we are doing research on the planning for major projects, that we are assured and we know that many of the people who come to work here through the construction phases will not arrive or depart from in their private vehicles. So while the evidence is in front of you, at this point in time, we require public notification, which we are recommending.
Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question about the occupied units, or sorry, the units to parking lot ratio. So from my understanding then, if we were to go forward with the variance as it's proposed, we would basically fall right in between the two camps that are already existing in terms of that ratio. We would be the mean between those two?
We would be actually on the upper mean.
Okay.
If there's such
You have a microphone, Ms. Anno. Thank you.
if there is such number. Essentially, they're asking for 35% relaxation in hours. They actually have 65% relaxation in the Alberta camps. In other words, their usage is 0.35 and 0.33%, so it's actually half of what they're asking for. Does that make sense?
I'm with you. Yeah.
No, I don't see any problem with this. The only thing that I would worry about is if, for some unknown reason, there was a reversal and a lot of people brought cars, what would have to happen then? Because you can't see the cars parked on the road and that. Looking at the statistics that they gave us and everything, and like you say, they're at the higher end of it rather than the lower end of it. I don't see a problem at all with it, because in this particular case, because of the isolation of Prince Rupert from major areas, most of them are going to be flying in anyway.
Other comments? I'll just say too, in terms of the notification process, there's no residential areas around that site that need to be notified. Is that correct?
There are no residential areas, but the two properties that are contained within notification is the Performance Arts Center and the golf course.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so the recommendations at the development variance permits application number DP 1613 for Lot A, Block 4, Plan PRP 5535 proceeds to the public notification process. Moved by Councillor Kinney, seconded by Councillor Moreau. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a report from our operations manager, our director of operations, regarding the Roosevelt School installation of new equipment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. The recommendation tonight is that Council approve the request of School District 52 and support the placement of new equipment in the Ecole Roosevelt Park. The Ecole Roosevelt Parent Advisory Committee, with assistance from grants, were able to raise $28,000 towards fitness equipment. It's outdoor fitness equipment like what we have at our recreation center. They are seeking approval from City Council to install this new playground equipment on municipal land right beside their existing playground. The analysis is that the subject area is part of Roosevelt Park. It has a restrictive covenant on title, therefore that's why permission needs to be granted by Council. There will be zero capital cost to the City of Prince Rupert, and as well all labor, materials, and installation will be covered by them. Additionally, the school district will handle all required maintenance and ongoing inspections. So the conclusion is that we are looking for approval from Council to let the School District 52 install the equipment at Roosevelt Park. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Does that still fall under their liability then as well?
Yes, correct. They will have liability on it. They have already, with the City of Prince Rupert, liability insurance on all their equipment.
Other questions? Okay, so recommendation that council approve the request of School District 52 and support the placement of new equipment at ACOL Roosevelt Park. Moved by Councillor Kinney, second by Councillor Cunningham. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, one of our highlights this evening, a report from our corporate administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason for the report is former councillor and longtime resident Mr. Odd Eisvik donated his time and efforts tirelessly to the community, and in a way of honoring his memory due to his passing, it was a bequest of members of council that we rename the Woodland Park behind the Westview School and that this parkland be dedicated to him. This recognition is to be done jointly with the Rotary Club of Prince Rupert, whereby at later dates they may arrange to have a formal plaque and sign produced and mounted at the entryway to the parklands as described. The recommendation is that council approve the recommendation to name the parkland located at PID 010-020-462 Lot 2, Plan 6241, District Lot 1992 R5C to Odd Eisvik Park in recognition of Mr. Eisvik's contribution and commitment to the City of Prince Rupert. Thank you, Your Worship.
I'll just, before we make a motion here, I just want to acknowledge Mr. Newton from the Rotary Club of BC, who, of Prince Rupert, apologies, who has been leading this charge, along with Councillor Cunningham, who brought this idea forward originally as well. And so we sent a letter off to Rotary last week, and the board had agreed that this is a good way forward. In this motion, we're not making any commitments to plaques or anything like that. We're just committing to renaming it, and then at another time, we've talked with Rotary that we will collaboratively work at whether a plaque will be there or a sign. Rotary has set aside some funds for something of that nature, and they have a Odd Eisvik Memorial Fund, and so this is kind of a tribute, as a joint tribute between Rotary and the city. Okay, so would you like to make the motion there, Councillor Cunningham?
Yes, I would.
Okay, moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Kinney. Further discussion?
I think it's a great idea, but the only one question I have would be like that particular area before had a transition house on it, and I'm wondering if we take the whole area, including the area that now is where the transition house used to be, would we be able to still do something there in the future? Basically, the only thing I'm saying is, are we restricting ourselves? I agree with the majority of the area being, the park, but if in the future we may need that space for whether it be a transition house or some other public use, which I believe that's all it can be used for, would we be able to still use that property for that? And that's my only concern, but other than that, I'm in general supporting the idea behind it and most of the area behind it.
Sure. Yeah, I can clarify that. So it would be just the woodlands portion of that site. Previously, in 2003 or 4, council had made a resolution to have 2 covenants placed upon the woodlands area there that would basically not to be developed after there was an attempt to do a potential rezoning for some condos. And you can correct me if I'm wrong there, Mr. Rander, is that correct information? Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so there's already covenants being in place so that woodlands area is not to be developed. That other portion you're talking about with the building and things like that would be fine to develop, as well as if there was ever a thought to maybe rehabilitate that park in the future, the same thing. So at this moment, it's kind of, we're keeping it simple. We're going to name the woodlands area after him, and have a sign or some sort of memorial plaque that would be placed there. So to answer your question, wouldn't adversely impact that top area that used to be the transition house. Okay. Any further discussion?
Question.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Mr. Newton. Thank you. Okay, moving on to bylaws. 9A is the building amendment bylaw. We had discussed this at the last meeting. So the recommendations that council adopt the proposed building amendment bylaw number 3396 2016. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Niche. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And 9B, regard the recommendations that council having made the amendment to item 2 of the proposed bylaw that the space rental sections 7.0, 8.0, 9.0 Schedule B be capped at a maximum of 5% increase of the 2015 rates. Now adopts the recreation fees and charges amendment bylaw number 3395 2016. Moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Cunningham. Any further discussions?
Actually, I made a couple notes over the weekend, believe it or not. On 3.7, I know these are going back a step, if Willa can possibly answer them. 3.7, additional charges may be applied to facility rentals in the event of food or music service to offset costs associated with food licensing or SOCAN fees. Normally, wouldn't a vendor pay for that?
Yeah, come forward. Which page is that on, Councillor Cunningham?
It's on page 46, 3.7. Sorry, Willow. It's your new hairdo.
It's under page 46 or 3 of 8, depending on which version you have.
Yes, so the renter would be responsible for those fees. So SOCAN is for when you wish to play music that's obviously copyrighted by artists, and so it's just captured in 3.7 to ensure that any renter is subject to paying those fees, and that it's not it's up to the responsibility of the individual renter for those related food or music fees, as opposed to taxpayers ending up paying for it if it's not clearly identified in the rental agreement.
So basically what you're going to do is make sure they've paid those fees before, so the rec center doesn't get stuck with them.
That's correct.
Okay. Now in 3.10, when a renter requires a facility to be closed to public use for any period preceding and or following the actual vendor date, there will be a charge to offset supervision costs. Now, does that apply during after hours, pre-business hours, or even during business hours when the staff is already there?
It would apply only to after hours. So if the facility is already in operation and there's staff currently in the facilities, we wouldn't look to offset any of that cost, because that's a service we can provide. It's in the event, say for something like a circus or carnival or an event that carries over into non-operating hours, where we would need to provide some sort of security type service to be able to provide that supervision. Otherwise, as long as there's staff already in the building, then there wouldn't be a need to charge any additional cost.
Okay, now one more question and I'll leave you alone. On page 48, 5 of 8, 5.23, adult rental rates apply to all renters that do not meet the criteria of minor organizations, youth, or commercial. How about senior hockey? Where does that fall into that?
So if they were, so essentially the adult is capturing all the others. So those minor organizations, youth, and commercial renters are the ones that are specifically carved out for that purpose. All others would fall into that adult range. So it's not to be confused with the age so much as there's specific subsidized rates based on things like minor sport that the other user groups wouldn't take part in.
As I say, do we even have seniors hockey?
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to 11A. Housing Committee. BC Housing came up here last week to with their Development and Assets Management branch to look at all of the existing units that they have to do assessment on the needs of those existing units. As well as myself and the acting city manager, Corinne Bauman, toured around with the BC Housing folks to different lots in the community that would be potential new site locations based on some of the site tours that we did as a council. And so this is all part of the application that we've made for the Affordable Housing Fund. At this point, this is not really committee work, as we are just directly working now with BC Housing as a city. And I'm personally managing that along with the city manager, along with our economic developer officer. And so once the BC Housing folks have got an assessment of their current stock, it may be that they need to do renovations or that certain stock is no longer useful and they may need to replace that. And as something we've communicated to them was that we'd like to have different stock around the community, more placed in at different locations rather than all in one location, something they're very interested in as well. So once that information comes back, we'll get a sense of what direction we want to head in, and it's very possible we may get some sort of investment into this community for some new affordable housing. So what that looks like yet, we're not sure, but the fact that they're up here and they've been up here a few times now, and that they've taken some special attention on some of our concerns that this council has been advocating for the last 2 years, it's some positive momentum.
Now that mostly the federal government made that announcement yesterday about the extra $150 million over 2 years to go into social housing, there's $51 million to go into just repairs for social housing, and there's a breakdown for construction, repair of affordable housing for seniors and things like that. Are we going to be trying to tap into any of that?
This is actually the exact same process, is that money. So they work closely with the federal government with those funds, something that we asked them when they were here. So it all coincides. So what they do now is they have to get a list of specific needs that this community needs. We showed them Can Place, Wayne Place, those types of things, some of the upgrades they need there, as well as some of their existing stock. And then part of our application will be what exactly are those needs. We have data that we've collected through the Goal Plan survey that we're giving them as well, maps of different locations, and then we'll get some sort of assessment. So yes, we should be tapping into that particular fund that they announced.
Yeah, because this fund was just announced yesterday, and
Yes.
it's on top of all the other funding. And,
Well, yeah.
I know you've been working hard with both the federal and provincial governments, but, what part of the announcement was the provincial government's going to be reaching out to smaller communities about this, and so hopefully a lot of that legwork you've done over the last year will reap some benefits.
And also, that's not necessarily new information. Like the federal government did say they were going to be putting funds aside for this. They just didn't specifically mention which provinces are going to get how much and those types of things. So BC Housing has already been working alongside with the feds on that. So there's the new fund from the province plus the new fund from the feds. It's all going through the same filters, same places. So we don't have to go and apply to the feds or apply to BC Housing. It's all working towards the same goal. So working with the people that we are working with now, which is the operations manager for BC Housing, Craig Crawford, and some of their assets team, plus their northern BC rep, we're hopefully going to be able to get something together where it's maybe some new units or renovated units or maybe some single units or seniors units. That's all being assessed at the moment.
Have they specifically asked for figures from our Go Plan? Because that's,
They didn't specifically ask for them, but we specifically
Gave
supplied
them
them to them. Which was good. So that's my report on housing. Good. Okay, so any questions or inquiries from members of council? Councillor Kenny.
I'd just like to say I attended Port Ed's 50th anniversary over the weekend on Friday and Saturday, and I quite enjoyed myself, and I thought it was an excellent event, one of the best ones I've attended in a long time. It rivals a lot of events we've been to over the last year or two, and it was well done. And I'd like to say kudos to Port Ed for putting it on the way they did. It was quite well done and very enjoyable.
The pancakes were delicious. Any other members or comments from council? Okay, and hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Moreau. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Meeting adjourned.